guys, welcome back to my channel for another What's for Dinner video. Wow, I've got some hair going on today. It's actually Sunday for me and I'm getting ready to go to church here just a little bit, but I realized I forgot to film an intro and an outro for my What's for Dinner video. So this week we had some amazing deals and I'm going to call this a really budget-friendly week. I know I say that the first recipe you see is going to be steak, but go with me on this, okay? So I purchase my steaks whenever they're on sale. I will either get them on sale at HEB or wait till Market Street does a buy one, get one free. Either way, that's the only time I buy steaks. They have to be on sale. I don't pay full price ever. So I paid about $15 for a pack of 3 New York strip steaks, which is what I served on Sunday with a side of asparagus, which was also on sale. It was $1 a bundle. So in total, because we didn't eat all the asparagus, we ate like half of it and the rest I ate for lunch during the week. So in total, I made a nice steak dinner with asparagus for less than $6 a person. You cannot beat that. I mean, you're certainly not going to get it at a restaurant. That is for sure. Anyway, the rest of the meals were like chicken and stuff. They were really, really budget friendly, very economical, but so full of flavor. I know you guys are going to see it in the video. I must be a huge fan of Acre Homestead. I actually just found her channel not too long ago, but I'm using 2 of her marinade recipes on the chicken this week. I'll link those down in the description box so you guys can try them because they were so easy and so good. Anyway, I'm going to quit chatting here and let you guys jump right in and see what we ate this week. So this week we started off with a steak dinner on Sunday. I know I've made steak on my channel before, but I did try something a little bit different this time. To go with the steak, I had purchased some asparagus the week before. It was still in my fridge hanging out and it was still really good. So I went ahead and cooked it. It was 3 bundles because we really, really like asparagus. So I just washed all 3 bundles, chopped the ends off, and then just tried to lay them out as flat as I could. It was way too much for this cookie sheet, but I didn't want to have to do multiple batches. I'm making a ton so we can have it for lunch, and then I'm going to eat it for lunch the next day as well. So I just tossed it in olive oil and then seasoned it with some of that Kinder's salt, pepper, and garlic seasoning. It's my favorite seasoning. It's my favorite seasoning mix. Before that, I always salt, pepper, garlic powder on pretty much any vegetable. Sometimes I do more, but that is always my bare minimum. It's the perfect flavor profile if you're roasting vegetables. So then I pulled out my steaks, I patted them dry like I always do, and I seasoned them with some Kinder's wood fire garlic, just a tiny bit because that stuff is strong. And then I put a little bit of the Longhorn Steakhouse seasoning on them. I really like that seasoning. We actually really enjoy Longhorn Steakhouse. We're not, like huge fans of steakhouses. It's not one of our favorite places to go, and we're really picky about steaks, but we really like what they do there. The flavor is always just really good. So when I saw their seasoning mix, I went ahead and grabbed a couple of bottles because I was at Dollar Tree. Anyway, it does taste like Longhorn, so I really, really like that mix. If you don't have access to that mix or you just want to try something out of your pantry, salt, pepper, garlic powder, a little bit of onion powder, and if you have some smoked paprika, that adds a nice flavor too. If not, no worries. Just salt, pepper, garlic powder, maybe some onion powder, and you've got yourself a nicely seasoned steak. I am cooking mine in my regular skillet. Usually I will use my cast iron, but I wanted to try it in my new pans. I was curious how good of a sear I would be able to achieve in here. And as it turns out, a really good one. I was very, very pleased, and the cleanup is so much easier. So when I cook my steaks, I do a few minutes on each side. We do like a rare steak. And then I like to kind of just cook the edges a little bit too because there is a fat cap on there. And it allows the juices from the fat cap to kind of get into the meat when I let it rest for a few minutes. I just feel like it gives me a better flavored steak overall. Anyway, once those were done cooking, I just put them to the side on a plate and then covered them with some foil and let them just kind of rest for a little while because now we're going to make a sauce. I was kind of looking at different steak sauces on this particular day, and I ended up going with a skillet bourbon steak sauce. It sounded really good to me. So I started off by mixing all the ingredients together in a measuring cup. It's a third a cup of bourbon, a quarter cup of soy sauce, a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce, quarter cup of light brown sugar. You've got some basil and rosemary, which I just used Italian seasoning. And you mix all of that together. Then you melt some butter in a skillet and add all those other liquids together. I think the idea is it keeps the bourbon from like catching on fire if you're not careful and stuff. You know, pouring alcohol in, especially on a gas stove, you do have to be careful so it doesn't ignite. I think that's just the purpose of all of it. Anyway, you cook that in the skillet for a little while, just a few minutes, and it does thicken up really, really nicely. I just had mine just at a constant simmer for probably about 5 or 6 minutes, and then I added in. You're supposed to add in evaporated milk or half and half. I just went ahead and added in this last little bit of heavy cream that I had, and then thinned it out with just like a tablespoon or two of regular milk. Then I just let that simmer on the stove top for just another few minutes. I think I tossed in some pepper too. And then I just poured it over the steaks, which I had sliced on a plate, and served it with the asparagus. That sauce was so delicious. I'm going to link it down below in the description box. You guys have got to try this. I think it would be amazing on pork and chicken as well. It is so, so good. So the next night, I'm trying another new recipe. This is from scratchpantry.com. It's the girl who does Acre Homestead. It's a YouTube channel. This is her website, scratchpantry.com. And I saw her make this the other day and she raved about it on her channel. So I went and looked up the recipe. It's called the Best Lemon Chicken, aka Smashed Chicken. And this was really flavorful. So I'm just mixing the marinade right now. It is a quarter cup of lemon juice, a quarter cup of olive oil, a quarter cup of Worcestershire sauce, some salt and pepper, oregano, and then she called for lemon zest, but of course I'm just using the store-bought lemon juice, so I didn't have any. I just added a little bit of extra lemon juice in there. Then she says optionally you can add in some red pepper flakes. I opted not to do that today. I did, however, add in a big spoonful of garlic, which she doesn't call for, but I just thought it sounded really good. There I am smelling of it. Just see, it smells amazing. Like it smells so, so good. This chicken really, really was such a win for dinner. Let me tell you guys, it doesn't look like much, but the flavors that you add into this marinade are so strong and vibrant that it gave this chicken a really, really magical flavor. I have really huge chicken breasts. I mean, they were way, way, way too big. It was going to take too long to cook them through, all that stuff. So I am going to go ahead and cut them in half just because it's so much easier. When I saw her make this on her YouTube channel, she put it in the oven and baked it, which is what I did today. And I mean, that was fine. It came out great. We ate all of it. We had leftovers, so we actually used it 2 nights in a row. But I will say, next time I make this, and I will definitely make this again, I'm going to cook it either on the grill or on the stovetop. I think that the chicken really, really, really could have benefited from a good sear. Now, I will also say I could have used a bigger pan when I put it in the oven. I kind of crammed it on a smaller cookie sheet, so it did sort of steam and boil a little bit. And maybe that was part of the problem too. But I think next time I definitely want to try it on the stovetop or on a grill instead of in the oven. And that really is my preferred method for cooking chicken. I like it better when it's got a little bit of a sear on the outside. I think it just adds a much, much better flavor. Anyway, I got all that chicken in a zip top bag. Then I just kind of squished it around so that the marinade was coating each and every piece of chicken. And I let that chill for about 24 hours before I was ready to use it. So for the first night when I made this, I had purchased a spaghetti squash the other day at the store. I'd been eyeballing them for a while, and I really, really was craving one. So I thought, well, this would be a good meal to have spaghetti squash with. In fact, I think when I saw her make it on Acre Homestead, she made it with spaghetti squash. Anyway, this was actually her recommendation for how to cook it, whether it was on that video or another one. That normally I will cut it in half like this, and then I will scoop out all of the insides, the seeds, the whole bit. And then typically I will either put it in my pressure cooker or I'll put it face down in a dish and pop it in the oven. And that's the way I've done it my whole life. That's the way my mom did it when I was a kid. So I just thought that's how you're supposed to do it. And I like spaghetti squash, it's fine, but I always did feel like it was so watery. Like there was so much liquid in it. And that kind of was not as pleasant for me as it could have been. Anyway, when I saw her make it on Acre Homestead, she put it face up so that the inside roasted and it dried it out a little bit more. So the consistency of the squash was better. So I tried that this time. So here I am, I'm just hollowing it out or cleaning it out or whatever you call it, where you pull all the seeds and the guts out. Then I'm going to put it on my cookie sheet, cut side up. I did have to kind of cut a little bit off the bottom of one of these to make sure that it sat properly on the cookie sheet. I didn't want it tilting to the side. I wanted it to stay upright nicely because I'm going to pour some stuff on it. Anyway, I did put olive oil, salt, and pepper. I think that's all I put on it this time. You can put whatever you want on it, garlic pepper or garlic powder or onion powder or any kind of herbs or whatever. But because I was going to serve it with the chicken, I just kind of kept it simple with olive oil, salt, and pepper. And then I put it in a 400-degree oven for like 45 minutes, and it was so perfect. This was much closer to the actual consistency of spaghetti because it wasn't so watered down. So if you haven't tried it this way, I would definitely say give this a shot. This is way better. I also decided on the side I was going to make some bruschetta. I had made some homemade naan, which I did show on my channel, I think like 2 weeks ago. If I can find that video, I'll link it down below so you guys can see it because it's a sour bread naan that I used my sourdough starter for. So delicious. Anyway, I wanted to serve some bruschetta. I'm kind of going for like, I guess, an Italian themed dinner here. I don't know. So I started off with 4 Roma tomatoes. I think in the end I actually only used 3, but I like to pull the seeds and the liquid out of them because it just makes for a better end product in my opinion. And I've seen people do this a bunch of ways where you just cut it in half and squeeze it and stuff like that. This is just how I do it because I think it's easier to work with the tomato this way. So I'll just slice it up and then go ahead and just kind of remove any of the seeds and extra liquid and guts or whatever you call it, and just set it off to the side in another bowl. And then I like a small dice on my tomatoes. Now you can use any tomato you want for this, and I've used a number of different tomatoes. However, I do think the Roma tomatoes are really the best for bruschetta. I just kind of feel like they're the right texture, consistency, and they hold up really well in this. There's a bunch of ways you can make bruschetta. Like when I go out to eat and we get it, people typically in restaurants will like drizzle like balsamic vinegar or a balsamic glaze over the top. I do not do that because my husband does not like balsamic vinegar. So if that's the way you've seen it, that's the reason I'm not doing it, is just because he doesn't like it that way. I keep it really fresh, almost if you haven't had it, like picture an Italian salsa. That's kind of what I would say to describe it to someone. So I dice up my tomatoes and then I'm going to chiffonade. Oh, isn't that a fancy word? I'm going to chiffonade some fresh basil. I actually prefer the lightly dried basil that's in the little green container, but they didn't have any. So I have fresh basil, and I just kind of like pull all the leaves off and put them in a pile and roll it up and just slice them thinly. And that is a chiffonade. It's so quick. It's so simple. And then you're supposed to add garlic, and typically I will just mince up some fresh garlic. Don't use the store-bought mint stuff like I typically use. Don't use that for this. It does not taste good. You need to actually use fresh garlic. But for this batch of bruschetta, I decided to try something different. I've been roasting garlic in the oven a lot lately because we're really enjoying that flavor. So I thought I'm going to roast a head of garlic and add that in, which is what I did. And it was really, really, really good. I would totally do that again. Usually this has raw garlic in it, so it's really powerful and it will really hit you hard. The roasted garlic was a lot more subtle. It was still there and it was a different kind of flavor. It was almost a little sweet. I really enjoyed it. I would definitely recommend trying it. If you don't know, it's so easy to roast garlic. Take a head of garlic and just cut the head off, or the top of the head off, and then pour some olive oil on it, wrap it up in foil, put it in the 400-degree oven for like 40 minutes to an hour. And then you can literally just squeeze it out like butter. It's amazing. Anyway, that's what I did. I took the whole head of garlic and added it to this. Now, what I should have done probably was to put it in a bowl and mash it up a little bit before I added it to this. That is not what I did. So then you'll see me in a little while when I am mixing this all up. I actually am having to like mash up the little bits of garlic to break them up a little more, but that's okay. It tasted fantastic. One thing I did forget to mention that I add in here is that Parmesan cheese. It's about a quarter cup. So I used, I think I just used 3 Roma tomatoes, but they were pretty large. I used a good amount of basil because we really, really like basil. And then about a quarter cup of fresh grated Parmesan. You can use the powder stuff. I've used that a ton of times. It's just a really nice flavor that it adds in there. This time I did not add any salt to it because typically the Parmesan cheese is salty enough, but I did end up salting mine once I got it on on my plate, I realized that it definitely needed a little bit of salt for sure. For some reason, it just wasn't enough this time. But there I am with that roasted garlic. And as you can see, I'm just like, I'm squeezing and little pieces are popping out and I'm kind of just throwing them in there. I'm trying not to get the skins in there because when you squeeze, the skins kind of come off a little bit too. So I'm trying to keep those from going in the bowl. And yes, I am wearing gloves. So I have a thing about garlic. It sticks on your skin. I have lemon soap, but it still sticks on your skin, and I can't stand that smell on my hands. It drives me nuts. I just don't like it. So anytime I have to handle garlic, you will always see me wearing gloves just because I don't want that smell on my hands. Also, it's like super sticky. I don't like that feeling. I don't know. It's just me. It's one of those things I get really picky about. I love the flavor of garlic and things like that. That's typically why you see me buying the pre-minced garlic, just because I don't want to have to mess with it, just because I don't like to touch it. I don't like the smell being stuck on me or anything. So that's just me. I know I get a little weird about stuff sometimes. Anyway, I did add that whole head in, and it was not nearly as strong as you would think it would be. I know it sounds like a lot of garlic, but once you roast a head of garlic, it is not nearly as strong as it was before. It really, I don't know, it makes it more of a mild flavor. Anyway, bruschetta is typically served with like some kind of little toasted Italian bread pieces or something like that. I just used that naan that I made, the homemade naan, and it was fantastic. So here in a second, you will see I'm putting the chicken on the cookie sheet. Like I said, I think I should have used a bigger cookie sheet. They were definitely not spaced out enough, in my opinion. They were crammed a little bit too close together. I still don't think it would have made the chicken the way I wanted it. I really just feel very strongly that it most definitely needed a sear. I did decide after I put it on the cookie sheet to add a little bit more seasoning too. So I put some extra Italian seasoning on top just because it seemed like there just wasn't very much in there. And there it is. It had so much flavor. It paired perfectly with the spaghetti squash. And there's my homemade naan, which I will try to link down below, and my bruschetta. It was so good. So the next night we had chicken left over. I myself did not want any chicken, but everybody else did. So I just decided to keep it simple with some chicken salads. So for me, like I said, I'm not putting any chicken on this one particular salad. I'll show you my husband's that I did put chicken on here in a minute. I had some shredded romaine lettuce in my fridge. Then I added some fresh spinach to it, some fresh diced tomatoes on mine. I put the bruschetta on my husband and my oldest son salads because there wasn't a ton of it left. I do have some green onions that I've been kind of growing. I had used them and I put them in some water so the tops just keep growing. So I just keep trimming them off and putting them in different dishes. And I'm really enjoying having fresh green onions on hand. I did shave the last little bit of Parmesan cheese that I had. And I'm topping mine with Italian vinaigrette because I think that is like my favorite salad dressing. I think it goes with everything. And then, oh my gosh, these little red pepper things, they're like dehydrated red bell peppers. They taste like the things that are on the salad at Chick-fil-A. They are so stinking good. The only place I found them is at Market Street. But man, they're amazing. Then I added croutons as well. And then there's my husband's no croutons, but he has chicken. This was so good and so filling and a great way to use up leftover any kind of meat, but chicken especially is perfect for this. So as soon as I was done eating, I did pop back in here and start marinating my chicken for the next night. I'm cooking another recipe from scratchpantry.com. This is honey mustard chicken. She used chicken thighs, but I had some chicken breasts, or I think they were tenders actually, that I needed to use up. They had been hanging out in my freezer longer than I should have let them because I didn't vacuum seal them. Usually when I buy things, I will vacuum seal them because when you do that and you put them in your deep freeze, they are good for a very long time. If I know I'm going to use something soon, I don't bother vacuum sealing it. And I don't know why I didn't vacuum seal all of this chicken, but for whatever reason, I just didn't. So I desperately need to use it because it just shouldn't be in my freezer any longer. I don't want it to go bad. Anyway, this is a simple marinade. It's a quarter cup of stone ground mustard. You saw me adding olive oil to get the last bit of my mustard out of that bottle. A quarter cup of honey, a quarter cup of olive oil. She calls for 3 garlic cloves. I just put a big old scoop in there of minced garlic, some salt and pepper, oregano, and then again, optional in this recipe is red pepper flakes. I didn't do that this time. Really, I was just looking for a nice, simple chicken, and I didn't want it to be too spicy. I didn't know how it would taste in the end. So I'm just opting to leave the extra spice out for now. If I make it again, then I will do things differently. Now, I learned my lesson with the last one, and instead of putting it in an oven like she recommends, I actually put it on the stovetop. This was so good. That sear makes all the difference in the world. So I tried very hard not to crowd the pan. I did do this in 2 separate batches. I did have to really watch it because there's a lot of honey in there, and that will burn if you're not careful. So what I ended up doing was I have my oven on, I think it was at like 425, and I'm cooking the chicken and getting a nice sear on it. And in between batches, I'm wiping off my pan because that honey does kind of burn a little bit. And then I'm putting this in a baking dish. And after everything is said and done, this is going to bake in my oven for an additional 10 to 15 minutes just to make sure each of those tenders is cooked all the way through. Off to the side, you can see I did cook up some yellow rice. It's just the packaged yellow rice mix. I followed the instructions and added in some garlic and dehydrated onion. I don't know what you call that, like little dried onion flakes. I don't know. Anyway, that's all I did to just kind of doctor that up a little bit and give it some extra flavor. And then in the skillet next to this, if you watched my grocery haul, I did pick up a clearance pack of, it was like a vegetable stir fry kit. That's what I'm cooking off to the side right there. It was so good. It was sesame ginger, and it's got like kale and broccoli and carrots and Brussels sprouts, and I don't know what else was in there. Just a bunch of veggies. You drop it in your skillet with a little bit of oil, and you saute them, and then you simmer them in the sesame ginger sauce that they include. It was so good. It's an HEB thing. Like they make it there. It's their brand. But I would definitely get that again if it was on clearance. I think regular price is like $5. For $5, I can buy a lot of fresh vegetables and just make a sauce myself at home. But if it's on clearance like it was like $2 or something. It was a nice, quick, easy side dish. But this chicken was definitely the star of the show. It had a lot of flavor, like a lot of flavor. There was a lot of sweetness to it. I think next time I might cut back on the amount of honey or add some extra mustard. I'm not sure which way I would go, but still, it was really, really good. I will link the recipe for this down below in the description box so you guys can try it. So there's the finished product. This might have been my most beautiful meal of the week. All those colors on that plate, it looks amazing, and it was so flavorful and delicious. I definitely recommend this. And here's the last meal of the week. I'm sure you guys have seen this. I think I was like one of the last people to ever make this. I've only been making this for like a year. This is Mississippi pot roast. So if you haven't seen it, here we go. So simple, so easy, and packed full of flavor. You take a pot roast, or you can take a pork roast, done that before, or you can take chicken. I recommend chicken thighs. I've done it with chicken breast, but it's definitely better with thighs. Add a package of au jus gravy sauce or like powder mix. If you can't find au jus, you can use the brown gravy mix. I've done that before and it tastes the same. Add in a pack of ranch mix. And then add in, it calls for a stick of butter. This is not a stick of butter. I don't feel like it needs a stick of butter. This is like half a stick of butter. And then pepperoncinis, which I add a lot of them. I don't know what the original recipe called for, but I know I add more than it did. I actually, the last few times I made this, did not even use the pepperoncinis. I had pickled jalapenos in my fridge. I use those instead, and man, that is delicious. So if you can't find pepperoncinis, or you find them very expensive for something that you're only going to use in here and maybe not on anything else, consider those pickled jalapenos, because those are a lot cheaper, and man, it was so, so good. Anyway, I stuck this in my slow cooker and let it go all day for like, I don't know, 6 hours or something on high because it was a little bit frozen. And it so fall apart, tender and juicy. Here it is. I don't trim it before I put it in, so you will see me like pulling some stuff out because I'm trying to get the big fat chunks out of there because I don't like all that extra fat. And then I'll make sure that only the meat stays in there. I'll pull it off. If it's like a big chunk, I'll get the meat separated, put it back in there, and throw away the fat. And then I'll let this simmer for probably about 30 minutes or so in the sauce. And it does definitely thicken up a bit if you do that, because we put the gravy pack in there, and that has like some kind of thickening agent in it. So if you just let this simmer with the lid, off or a jar or whatever so that, the steam can escape, then you will definitely get a thicker gravy at the end. While this is going on, I do have some water boiling in the background. I serve this over pasta. I know people do it over mashed potatoes or over rice or over roasted potatoes or something. I just do pasta, like the little corkscrew noodles. That's what we like. And those little corkscrew shapes, the meat can kind of get in there and stick to the noodles, and this little bit of gravy sticks to the noodles. I just find that that's the best shape, and it tastes really, really good. There is enough here for 2 nights. That was a big pot roast. But this meal is really, really flavorful. It is not healthy. It is not low fat. It is high sodium, high fat, all that stuff. But it is also high flavor and high comfort food if that is what you're looking for. And it really just, it's like a bowl of happiness. There's so much going on here. So I just, like I said, I let that simmer once I've just kind of mashed it up with my meat masher thing, and it gets thicker, and I pour it over a bowl of those corkscrew noodles, and it is absolutely fantastic. My family loves this no matter what kind of meat I use, whether it is pork or beef or chicken. It is so stinking delicious. So if you actually have not tried Mississippi chicken pot roast, pork roast, whatever, don't wait any longer. Go get the stuff, cook it. It is amazing. You will love it. All right, guys, so that's it. Those were our meals for this week. No complaints from anyone in my house. We loved every single one of them. They were so good. And I got to tell you, using that chicken to have salad for dinner, my husband and I both were like, why don't we have salad more often? We used to have a lot of salads for dinner, and we haven't done it in a while, so you may see more salads coming up. I don't know. Anyway, this next week I have some great meals coming up too. So if you guys like this kind of stuff, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button so you can keep up with all of my videos. I hope you guys have a fantastic week, and I will see you soon. Bye.
I had a feeling you'd come back and save me from all those lonely